Hey, hi, hello everyone. It is Mama Smash here, back with some speed builds for you this week. And this week, both of my builds today and the one that I'll post later this week are both going to be shell challenges that I did back in December. And if you're not familiar with what a shell challenge is, basically someone will put a shell of a building, so just the walls, the basic walls, onto the Sims 4 gallery, and then other people can go download it and make whatever they want. You can, add whatever roofing you want. You can put whatever walls inside. You can add whatever landscaping you want. You just can't change the existing outer walls. So this was the first shell challenge that I did back in December. This was posted by LilSimsie. She's also a YouTuber and she's pretty cool. And she put out the shell challenge and a bunch of people went, and then you re-upload it to the gallery so people can check it out and see what people make of this same shell. So for instance, I ended up making this into a restaurant with a 2-bedroom apartment on top, but some people made it into a suburban house, some people made it into a cottage, some people made it into a spa or a gym or whatever. So it's always really cool to see what people come up with when they're doing a shell challenge. So when I first initially started working with the shell, I like to take shell challenges and just kind of stare at them for a while. I took that footage out because it's just me like going in, zooming in and out and kind of moving the camera around, rotating it so I can get a feel for what the build has. And so I originally started to try to build a spa, and that was just not working. So I then had the idea, because of all of these kind of bump outs, well, like what if there was a restaurant with an apartment upstairs, which I think is actually a fun concept if you have ever used Dine Out and had a restaurant where your sim runs it, and then your sim needs somewhere to live. You technically can live on your home lot, but it's much easier just to live where your restaurant is. And so I made this 2-bedroom apartment so you could have 3 Sims living here, like a couple and then a kid, or I guess they don't have to be related, but that's how many bedrooms it has. And yeah, it was really fun to kind of move around and figure out it. You have to be really creative, right? Because you can't change things around. Normally, if I want a wall to move like a little bit to the left or right, I would just kind of do that and it would be fine, but you can't do that in a shell challenge. So it's really a opportunity to be creative and, maybe try working with shapes that you might not have worked with otherwise. And so, I think shell challenges are really fun, and who knows, maybe sometime in the future I will do a shell challenge here on my channel. And then usually what happens, if they're a YouTuber, they'll put the shell challenge out, then give people like a couple weeks to do it, and then do like some tours of some different shells that they thought were really cool or things like that. So who knows? But so let's get back to this build. So I started with these kind of like booths. I was trying to figure out what I wanted the kind of vibe of the restaurant to be, whether it was going to be more like a diner or like fine dining, and I think it ended up being kind of in between. It's kind of more like a classy place, but definitely not a diner, but also not like super fancy. Like it's not like it's a super fancy French restaurant or something. So maybe it's like an Applebee's, I guess. And I really tried to utilize the space in a way that was realistic. So I not only have the things that are necessary, like a kitchen and bathrooms and places to eat, but I also like made a little area in the back for the dumpster, and I put in a little supply closet so that there's supplies for, or shelves of different spices and things like that. And so much like I like to put clutter in houses, I think it's really fun to make builds realistic in that way, even if your Sims can't actually really do anything in there except go look at the shelves, but I think it makes it more realistic. So I also really like the idea of having an outdoor dining space. I started on a pretty big lot, and eventually I will move it from, I think right now it's building in either New Crest or Willow Creek, and I'll end up moving it to San Myshuno, right down by where the water is, and so it looks a lot. I really like how it looks there because it looks like it fits in more. It's kind of cramped into this more enclosed space versus this like really big kind of suburban lot. And I think it just kind of fits the feel of it better. So I played around quite a bit with the color scheme and eventually ended up with this kind of blue cobalt sort of color, and then we'll end up kind of having white as like the neutral color. So it's like this like white and blue place, at least for the restaurant part and I guess the outside, and then the inside is much more colorful in the apartment upstairs. So this restaurant has a front like main door that you can come in, and that's where your host station is, where you would like check in if you were coming to visit the restaurant. And then it has this other door out the side, and that's where the area is for the outdoor dining. And then there's 2 doors into the kitchen, because I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant, but when I worked in a restaurant you have an indoor and an outdoor, and so there's kind of like this like short little hallway that would be if you were going in one and out the other. And then there is a stairway up the back of the build that you can see. I'm just putting in the door and railing up there now, and then that's what leads into the apartment. And then the apartment also has this like 1 tile wide and like 4 or 5 long little balcony out there too, that I think I put a little planter pot out there. But this build, it wasn't the hardest shell challenge I've ever done. There's definitely been ones that I had no idea what to do with them, but the bump outs were really, I think, what set this one apart, because there were quite a few places, as you can see, like on the front and on the side, and why there's like this little balcony is because there's these bump outs that are on the first floor, but they're not on the second floor. And so you kind of have a few options. You can utilize that to like put things on, or you can utilize it like for roofing. And I tried roofing at the beginning, but it just looked like too much roofing. So I ended up utilizing it for the roofing like on the actual build, rather than roofing as more of an awning to kind of go all the way around. So and we'll see in a while what I ended up doing with the roof, which is mostly with platforms rather than using the roofing tool for this one. And so now I'm kind of finishing up the inside. Got lots of tables in there with candles on them, and then putting some art on the walls. It's not super bright in there. The main light comes from the candles on the tables, because I didn't really want it to be very bright in there. I didn't want it to feel too bright. It has lights on the walls, but I often find that those are much darker than if you put them on the ceiling. And then outside I also use the same lights to kind of try to make the outdoor dining area a bit lighter, particularly at night. So now I'm kind of working on the front of the build, especially at night. I seem to have a lot of trouble with trying to get signs or other things kind of on the outside of builds to look lit at night. This was a similar thing when I was working on the 12 Days of Christmas build with the 5 golden rings, when I did the beach with the beach day, and I don't know why that is. It probably has something to do with how light is programmed into the game, but that can definitely be frustrating at times. So let me know down in the comments if you have like a special way that you try to deal with lighting in your builds, if that is becoming an issue when you're trying to light something. So as you can see now, I'm working on the roof. The roof took me quite a while. I'm still getting used to the platform tool, and my game also froze partway through, and so I ended up having to go back and start over completely, which was actually okay, because the first time around I kind of did it and it looked alright, and I at least was recording, so I had kind of a screenshot of what it looked like, but I actually like how it ended up in the end better than what I had before. So sometimes I guess those computer crashes can be helpful, even if they're really frustrating after some long work. And so the main thing that I ended up doing with the platforms on the roof was that I had to go in and use walls and then just raise it up like a room rather than trying to fit the puzzle pieces together like I'm doing now, because it would just end up being all these different sizes and they wouldn't connect exactly how I wanted them to, and so I thought about taking this part out because I really did struggle here, but I wanted to leave it in to just make it clear that I also struggle in building sometimes. And so if you are ever struggling with platforms in particular, since they are newer tools from like back in November, that you are not alone. And yeah, it's okay if you struggle with platforms or any other part of build mode, because I think sometimes it is much more difficult than it needs to be. So I wanted to leave this in here so that y'all don't feel alone when you're doing your build and it's just not working for you. As you can see right there, that is where I had to put the walls in and then just raise it up, and it ends up being a lot faster. Now, I will say this was a shell challenge, so you have to be careful because you technically can't add on to that top actual walls, because that would then defeat the purpose of it being a shell challenge. So you just have to be careful when adding walls for platforms, but platforms are okay to add. They're not considered other rooms. It'd be like adding a porch, so I just had to be careful to make sure to delete those walls, because even half walls are walls in this case, so gotta make sure to delete those walls when I was making the roof. But yeah, now I'm working on the outside, putting some other final details, some different trims around the middle just to kind of give it a bit more definition. I'm working with the back stairs to get it kind of like a pillar and make it seem a bit more like it's not just floating in midair. So I ended up putting a platform underneath the stairs there, and I think that ended up looking pretty good, rather than just kind of having these floating stairs that kind of freak me out sometimes in The Sims when it just looks like there's literally nothing supporting the stairs. So that's that helped, I think. And then kind of putting in a little bit of clutter in that little storage room, putting a sink in the kitchen, a big like industrial type sink, putting in, you know, cleaning supplies and some clutter down on the tables. Just kind of getting that clutter all the way in there, and then doing flooring. The floor in the kitchen and the stockroom are like a I don't know, like that kind of bumpy floor that you find in kitchens, like industrial type kitchens, so that you don't slip, like the non-stick type bumpy floor, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's what I ended up putting in there. And then put some little benches outside. Maybe it's a really busy place, so people wait outside for there to be a table for them or something. And a bench inside as well. And then a few of those little mats too. And a nice rug to welcome people in. So after kind of finishing up with these final wallpaper and lighting and clutter things downstairs, and then making that lantern to go upstairs, I will kind of head upstairs fully and start doing the apartment upstairs. So I've kind of already done like a basic layout of what furniture I thought would be up there, but now I'm going to go through and, you know, decide like, oh, what furniture do I actually want. I kind of laid out just kind of placeholder furniture because I knew what space I had, and now I'm going to go through. So the kitchen was pretty easy. I made it blue, kind of matches the outside, which is fun. This bathroom was really, really fun. It's like bright pink. The sink and the toilet and the mirror and like the bottom of the shower are all like bright pink, so that was pretty fun. It just made me think of like one of those like old style apartments that like maybe this is a really old building and so you have started kind of remodeling like bits and pieces of it, but now it's gotten to the bathroom and you still haven't done it, but you're not really sure if you want to because it is a lot, but it's also kind of fun. So that's what I ended up going for in the bathroom. And yeah, so it just looks really fun in there. Very bright, very pink. And then we've got the two adults bedroom with the closet and everything, and some different I'll put some different clutter in there too. And then I was trying to figure out maybe like a special flooring in the kitchen, and so I did like a back and forth flooring, which you can do if you press the little greater than or less than keys. You can flip flooring from one direction to another. There's a little build tip for you today. And then I went through and putting in these different final touches in the parents' bedroom, and putting some paintings on the wall, and putting a plant in the corner. I didn't want too big of a plant, but that one seemed to fit pretty well. And then I was like, actually, I don't have a bookshelf in here, so I ended up putting that bookshelf instead. And then this is one thing I like to do, is put those she racks on top of the closet, like that is built into the wall, because otherwise there's just kind of this random space between the top of like where the ceiling is and the top of the closet. So that's one little build trick that I like to do, is put those little shoe racks up there. And then the kids' bedroom, they're actually the only one with a computer, so if anybody needs to use a computer, they have to go into their room. And I kind of made that for like a teenager, and then went and put some other just random clutter items around, like a calendar here and there, some soap and stuff in the bathroom, and a calendar, which I recently found out. And let me know down in the comments if you already knew this, but that calendar that's on the wall in the kitchen right there, you can actually set like a curfew. And so your teenagers like have to be back in time for curfew, otherwise you can like ground them from stuff. I had no idea. This is a gameplay feature that I recently discovered and have been using in one of my legacy type saves, and it's actually really fun. It adds a whole element of storytelling that I hadn't really used before. So let me know down in the comments either if you knew that, or if there's other fun tricks that you have learned about in your own gameplay. Let me know what those are, and we can learn from each other, which is always great. So and if you are interested in this build, it is up on the gallery. It has been since December, when I built it for LilSimsie's challenge with like the hashtag and things like that. So my gallery ID is MamaSmashRR, and so it's up there. Like I said, it would have been posted back in December, and it's called, I think, apartment restaurant, like restaurant with apartment or something like that. And it'll show at the end of the video, it'll show what the upload screen looks like, so you can also see what the name of it exactly was there. And so I'm kind of putting in these final plants, and then I'm gonna move it in just a minute from here in Newcrest or Willow Creek over to San Myshuno, once I kind of have it looking how I want it to, and figure out that it doesn't quite look right here. So I'll save it, and then I will move it here to San Myshuno. And like I said, I think it just fits a lot better. I think the building style fits a lot better. It's a bit more modern, not super modern, but a bit more modern than like a typical suburban home that you might find in Willow Creek or in Newcrest. So that's where I ended up placing it. And then I'm just going to go through and be doing those final things that I like to do at the end of builds, of just figuring out what the landscaping is going to look like. I really didn't put a lot of landscaping on this one because I figured it's supposed to be kind of on this cement block. That's kind of what this part of San Myshuno is a lot of kind of cement. And so I don't end up putting like a ton of landscaping outside. And then here I am putting in some different clutter in the kitchen. Had a lot of fun with that. It's not every day I get to do an industrial type kitchen when I'm putting in clutter, so this was definitely a different type of cluttering than I'm used to, but it was fun to try to use things that I don't necessarily use, like these spices I don't use a lot, or some of the big jars of peppers, like jalapenos and stuff that you would see in a kitchen, but not necessarily in a home kitchen all the time. So that was also a fun experiment of, well, what would be in this kitchen and where can I find them, and see what I can put in there just for fun. And there is a dishwasher, there's the cooking station, and the sink. so that your Sims, whoever is cooking at your restaurant, will be great. And then I'm going to go through and put in curtains throughout. It just adds that kind of finishing touch. I don't know, I think curtains really give places that finishing touch in real life. I know in my own apartment that was the case, and so I like making sure there's curtains in Sims builds too for that same reason. And then again, putting in these final details, little hand sanitizer and like calendar, because maybe the staff needs to know when they're working, or little trash cans in the bathrooms because, well, that's actually really important, I feel like, but not necessarily something I always think of, particularly in The Sims, is to put trash cans in bathrooms. And then I'll go through and do this kind of final part here with a little bit of landscaping. And I'll do which is kind of just that grass around the outer edge of the fence. And then that street lamp or big lantern to put a little bit more light on the outer side of the outdoor dining area. And then kind of going through and putting these last bushes with the little flowers on it to just give a little bit of landscaping. But like I said, not too much, because it's kind of supposed to look like it's concrete all around here because it's in the middle of a city. So there's not going to be a bunch of super green space anyway. And so that is going to be all for today. Until next time, I hope you are all having a smashing day. Bye!